Have you ever seen a normally calm person completely lose their SHT? What happened? I had a friend who was in his 60s, a functioning alcoholic, but he was the most calm and composed guy I've ever known. He never used to raise his voice or swear. Everything was done with meticulous precision. He once explained to me that if you use vulgar language and shout all the time, then you will have nowhere to go when you really do get angry. I had worked with him for about 3 years, never heard him raise his voice or swear before. The week before he had been shafted on his pay and the manager promised to get it sorted by Friday. Friday rolled around and it had not been sorted. So when my friend walked up to the manager in the open office and declared loudly, "Where the duck is my money? You promised this would be resolved." The whole office went silent and the look of dread on the manager's face was haunting. The money was in his account by the end of the day. That was him losing his shit. Edit, spelling. He once explained to me that if you use vulgar language and shout all the time, then you will have nowhere to go when you really do get angry. I'm gonna turn this into a poster and hang it on my wall above my PC so I never forget. Honestly, really good life advice. I'm gonna use this to make some personal improvements. Preach. My parents curse in front of me now that I'm an adult but never swore at all when I was growing up. I still remember the first time my mom said duck in front of me. I was so stunned I honestly don't even remember the context anymore. Might have been about making good relationship choices or not doing drugs. Just that it was a massive record scratch moment that I remember that feeling to this day. Just absolutely gobsmacked. The swing from my mom scolding me for bad language, not using it herself, to buying me kitchen gear that says things like duckety fuck as gifts is the funniest plot twist of reaching adulthood. Quit the job on the spot. He went out of the office showing the finger to everyone and telling us to go duck ourselves. Nice dude. I miss him. My brother did this at his old job. Our dad had just passed, and his boss had said to a coworker, "I don't know why has still caught up about it. It's been 2 weeks, he should be over it by now." When my brother found out, he grabbed a sheet of paper and scribbled "I quit" on it, walked into his boss' office, said "duck you," and left. One time in high school, a couple bullies were up in this other kid's face. Dude was just sitting there like Anton Chigurh or Private Pile, no expression and staring straight ahead, clearly not hearing a thing. One of the bullies inched closer, and the kid decked him as hard as he could in the face. The bully was knocked to the floor, speechless with his nose bleeding everywhere. The kid then calmly stood up, still with no emotion, calmly packed his things, and made his own way to the principal's office as if nothing at all had happened. It's still one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. It was like right out of a movie. Maybe he was thinking really hard about what one-liner he'd say after knocking that bully down. No line is even more vicious. True. A one-liner is so corny it'll make the bully want to keep bullying you. I was chilling at a friend's house as a kid. His dad was the chillest, nicest guy. That day, my friend's mom, also super nice, was across the street talking to the neighbor about something that I can no longer recall. Neighbor was one of those guys who never respected common etiquette, music blaring, parking his shitty boat in front of other people's house, cars parked on the lawn. The neighbor started screaming at THR mom and we all went out on the stoop to see what was happening. As soon as we got outside, the guy called my friend's mom a cunt. Well, my friend's dad heard that and went full Hulk mode. He ran screaming across the street and just ducking decked the guy and crouched over him shouting warnings and threats. Took a while for his wife to calm him down. I don't think any of them had ever seen him react to something in that way, maybe even the dad himself. Warnings and threats after conking him in the face. This is exactly how villains should be explaining their evil plans. Any last word, Mr. Bond? Why don't why gunshot JK? More like a gunshot. Any last words, Mr. Bond? Corpse does not respond, forfeiting its right to last words. I used to do seasonal work sorting tax returns. Like, 500 people in a warehouse-size room sorting through returns, stacking them in boxes, etc. This one guy on my team, huge dude, a gentle giant, really nice. Suddenly one day he smashes the table he's working at, then flips a big box full of paperwork. It flew over my head and 20 feet away. He threw the table out of his way, then stormed out. Turns out he was getting his paycheck garnished for something or other. If the garnishment was for back taxes, the irony of the situation would have enraged me too. What does garnished mean in this situation? Garnishing wages is a term used when a debt or similar payment arrangement takes a % of your wage, typically used for child support or large fines. Thank you for the explanation. Also, garnishment is specifically court-ordered. Like a debt collector goes to a judge and gets a judgment. One of my teachers in high school was the calmest dude. Never yelled, never told kids off, would just laugh and smile and wait for us all to calm down and then continue with his teaching. One day we must have been particularly rowdy and we weren't calming down like we usually did. He couldn't get a word in edgeways. I could see him getting increasingly frustrated and eventually he just bellowed "Show what up, Pan." The entire class was shocked into silence. He never had to do it again. Lamau. Reminds me of a Vietnam vet history teacher we had. Everyone would always ask a related question to know he would just go off about for the rest of the period if we didn't feel like going on about whatever today's topic was. Everyone always found out later that he lost 3 of his 4 kids to cancer due to his Agent Orange exposure. Agent Orange affects the sperm? Till. Poor guy. There's an entire museum in Vietnam dedicated to the effects of Agent Orange. Lots of pickled embryos and the like. And I remember, a while ago, the staff were Agent Orange victims who survived. Are you talking about the War Museum in Ho Chi Minh? Was there today? I feel hollow right now. All of those things were difficult to see and swallow in. My mom is a Vietnam GI baby, so that may have strongly influenced my emotions, but the war crimes room was so overwhelming that I had to excuse myself to go cry a few times. My husband agreed that it was brutal, though. Mechanic I worked with is getting verbally abused by a customer claiming he ripped him off. Guy's going off saying all sorts of racist shit, then stepped up like he was gonna swing. Henry beat him to the punch, literally. Then he calmly walked to the back office and called the cops on himself. One of my coworkers is a really calm, quiet, easygoing dude. We had a receptionist at the time who was terrible. Would constantly leave the front desk phones unattended. We would have to stop mid-service to answer them ourselves and check people in out. One day, she pulls her same bullshit. The phones are ringing, people waiting, and she's nowhere to be seen. He just does a big sigh, and screams her name in the loudest, angriest, most fed up "I'm ducking done" scream. She scurried her trifling little ass back up to the front in seconds like a little cockroach that knew it fucked up. Lol, I can imagine the rage. Kano B55. I worked as a line cook with a chef who I became really good friends with. Really chill dude, easygoing, and actually super fun to cook with. He taught me most of what I know about cooking and I owe him a lot for my success. Never really saw him get mad until one day. We were getting slammed during busy night and one of the servers said something that really ticked him off. Not sure if I ever heard what it was, but next thing I knew he had sent the deep fryer basket flying at Mach 1 across the kitchen, nearly missing the dish kid and shattering a light bulb. He stormed off and 5 minutes later, after a smoke break, came back and casually continued cooking as if nothing had happened. He apologized about it the next day and we never talked about it again. The restaurant industry is a stressful place. Oh yeah, when the servers start asking stupid questions it's very easy to get pissed. There was one particular time when Matt got super glue in his eye while on the line. Trying to continue to control the chaos of the kitchen, he goes into the back and you hear 3 loud bangs up against the side of the building. Dude had a sledgehammer he swung when he had so much pent-up anger. That wall still has all the damage from him 5 years later. If you've never seen it, then this is my favorite go-to for the type of crap you hear all day that wears you down. Edit, for all those asking, the show is called Whites and it looks like it's on Amazon Prime, at least in the US. This is not my story but my dad's. Growing up, his best friend Leif was a quiet, shy guy that was a bit socially awkward. In school he wasn't physically bullied, but this one kid teased him constantly. This would have been late 50s, early 60s, so kids were expected to just tough it out. My dad would usually confront the kid, but one day a girl runs up to him and says that Leif and the kid are fighting. My dad runs over to save Leif, but when he breaks through the circle he finds the bully flat on his back, Leif sitting on his chest, holding him by the ears and smashing his head into the pavement over and over. My dad tackles him, wrestles him to the ground and screams at him, asking what he's doing. The thing that stayed with me from that story was how he described it. It was like there was nothing in there. I felt like I could see the back of his skull through his eyes. Luckily they were kids, so the damage was serious but limited. The bully escaped with stitches and a concussion and Leif had to talk to the school psychologist. My dad and Leif stayed best friends, and when I met him as an adult he was still quiet but less shy and awkward. Man, my grandma has a similar thing. This boy was a couple years older than she was and he was constantly picking on her. He's riding his bike home from school one day and he rides past her and he's shouting at her and she knocks him right off his bike and beat the shit out of him. My sweet lil granny. The neighbor that saw it said he was proud as shit that she beat the snot out of this shitty kid lol. I think it was the start of my grandma's bad bitch streak because not much later, she started street racing. She was allegedly a sweet little girl, but man I think she must have had a mean streak in her. If your granny is still alive tell her I want to be her friend. No new friends. Granny,